And we are back with this episode of the Dunker Spot as we shift to the WNBA side. Steve, we have some trades and a debut to react to. So we start with the big one. We start with the big name. On Friday, we talked about Kelsey Plum. It's like, hey, these are the rumblings that are starting to perk up. We will see what happens by the time the Sunday deadline comes around. And naturally, we'll talk about it on Tuesday. Early Sunday morning, I wake up to an ESPN graphic with Kelsey Plum in a different jersey. And I'm just like, wait a minute. What do you mean? The one time I'm not up at like 2 a.m. for no reason is when I wake up to the darn star trade that actually ends up happening. But Kelsey Plum, you are a member of the Phoenix Mercury. Going back to the Los Angeles Sparks is Monica Cole-McConney, Phoenix's 2027 first-round pick and their 2028 second-round pick. And so before we get into the Kelsey Plum debut, which happened last night as we record on Tuesday morning, how surprised were you that a trade actually happened? How do you feel about the package? Just your general thoughts about the trade itself, Steve.
I wasn't surprised the trade happened. We talked about it on Friday, and I give you your flowers. You wrote a great piece about the potential fits. You had the Mercury right up there towards the top. I myself was like, I don't know if Kelsey Plum would just go to like the same scenario. Nope. I'm going to be Phoenix Mercury, and that's fine. So salute to you, tip the cap there. I think it's interesting in the sense that if you're Phoenix, it makes sense to make this swing. I understand they have not had the season that they have wanted. They are not necessarily like they have to do a whole lot to get back into the playoffs because you're looking at the Liberty as hovering around the 8th seed, and the Washington Mystics won't stop winning. So, you know what? What we're doing isn't quite working, and we have the chance to get Kelsey Plum. Like, I think that's something you have to do. With Kelsey Plum's scoring ability, with Kelsey Plum's growth, and we have the chance to add that to our roster, sure, might be a free agent. Sure, you can look at this as a rental. We have a chance to open up the door and show exactly what we are as the Phoenix Mercury. You can play with Liz Thomas and Kalia Copper, and we don't have like the time to really pivot. You know, we had Satu here. We had our big three. We lost our big three. We need to rebuild our big three. So, all right, let's show the people. We care about you. Look at these facilities. You can have fun playing basketball. You don't have to carry the entire load. We got you. Have that going, like you have a head start as far as actually experiencing it as opposed to just purely selling it. So I totally understood why Phoenix swung for the fences. You can talk about long term, but I mean, if you can get Kelsey Plum, you got to get Kelsey Plum. So for me, I was just like, that makes a lot of sense. KP's a bucket getter. This is a competitive league. We've seen the ebbs and flows as far as these teams are going. Whatever talent we can get, we can get. What were your thoughts on it?
I would just say, like, one, I want to be annoying for like 8 to 12 seconds, and then I want to directly answer your question because you mentioned like the Satu piece
one box
in the middle. not the one box, but like you mentioned the Satu portion in the middle of your answer, and it just reignited my annoyance that we never got a firm answer on if you were moving on from Satu or if Satu wanted to move on from Phoenix. Why was that not a core in trade situation if you're the Phoenix Mercury? Like, that just never makes sense. And they were asked about it over the summer when pressers were had, and there was just no answer given. I still don't quite understand why you wouldn't try to get something out of that. That is the end of my annoyance. We are back to the $2. We are good to go. I'm right there with you, though, as we talked about on Friday. Like, I think just having a couple of months to do some early pitching with Kelsey Plum. And I think Nikki Wren already hinted at it yesterday when they did some of the intro stuff for KP. It was like, can't say too much, but I don't think we make this trade if we didn't have confidence that we'd be able to retain her. And so it doesn't necessarily mean a literal handshake agreement or anything like that. I don't think KP would be there if there was like real concern that she's just going to dart. And I think as I tweeted out, like she hasn't really been a free agent yet. Like it's been core stuff. And even with the Sparks, it's like, okay, I'm hanging around. I'll take the $999,909, which I'm still kind of chuckling at. But like I knew I was coming back. This would be the first time that there are no core responsibilities or anything like that. She can just take meetings and whatnot. But being able to get early reps with her AT and Kalia Copper, I think is very valuable. And as of recording, heading into the Tuesday slate, they are 5.5 back of Washington at 8. That is sizable. That's not impossible, especially if the Mercury stack some wins And I think that acts as a natural segue as we did get the Kelsey Plum debut. And also, in hindsight, 'cause I saw that KP was texting a little bit with Tyler Marsh. It's like, yeah, see you Monday. I wish I had known that. I would have asked him about that heading into the game. We had our 500 episode special, so check that out if you haven't already. But we did get the Kelsey Plum debut, Steve. 21 minutes off the bench, 20 points, 4 assists, go-ahead bucket late in that game. And I think from ESPN Stats and Info, I think Kendra Andrews tweeted this out last night. First player in W history to hit a go-ahead 3 in her team's debut. Off the bit, like, talk about instant impact for Kelsey Plum. So, Steve, I'll swing the rock back to you. What were some of your initial impressions of Kelsey Plum Phoenix Mercury, since we actually have a game under the belt to talk about?
Well, I mean, I think you saw the vision of why they took the swing. Even in limited minutes, even in different lineups, this is why you went and got Kelsey Plum. Now, of course, this is new player, new team, first game type beat, but you saw just, okay, Kelsey Plum and Alyssa Thomas at pick and roll. Boy, that's fun to watch. That's tough to deal with. And they haven't even really inverted it that much yet. So imagine KP is screening for AT. They can get build on that. But KP is going to draw the attention of defense. And if she does not, she will make the defense pay by scoring. And so I thought the drives were really solid as far as, okay, once I get in the paint, defense is going to help. I can get a spray out. And I think that's something the Mercury have kind of missed to a degree, to where it's like, hey, AT, you have to create this. COD, you're going to have to score enough points to create this. We have a natural kind of KP to kind of do this, especially early in the clock, to where it's not always AT has to push it and bring it up. Okay, outlet to KP. And now we get a pick and roll. Now we play out of it. And you can kind of slide Kalia Copper into a more natural on-ball, off-ball role where, hey, wherever it gets to you, you can just go to work. Kelsey Plum doesn't have to set the table, but can showcase the playmaking growth on top of, I can just score. So if you're going to go drop or you're going to go late switch, I can get in the paint. I can get to my spots. I can drive and kick. And now the Mercury having an ability to have some more versatility offensively. Because if you're having a lineup out there where it's AT, it's DeWanna Bonner, it's Kelsey Plum, it's Kalia Copper, it's Sammy Wickham, that's not an easy group to guard. So like that doesn't have to be what they do all the time, but they can get into more of that movement. They can get into more of that flow. They can space the floor and make teams pay. You want to help, we can get things going and kind of keep you in rotation and find our flow. So I think that was kind of the vision for me. But I love the mindset to get in the paint, spray it out, and just, okay, yeah, I could score. Yeah, I could be efficient with it, but I can add a layer to what we've done. What did you take from the debut, Nekias?
No, I think I'm right there with you. Like, the paint pressure was immediate with Kelsey Plum, as she has been, when healthy, one of the best drivers in basketball, not just this year, but for multiple seasons at this point. Becky Hammond has talked a lot about like how much better Kelsey has gotten at general paint touches and the rim reads tied to that. And so to see that pop immediately with the Phoenix Mercury is like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And even bouncing off of your broader point about the team context, it's cool now that KP can get to the paint in addition to like what Alyssa Thomas does and what Kalia Copper does, where it just kind of felt perilous beyond those two. Like, who else is getting downhill for us without the defense already being tilted? Just having someone that can just say, I got this, is very important and should just make life easier. I think what popped the most for me, and they didn't score on all these possessions, but that second quarter run when KP came in and it's like, hey, so let's run Spain with you as the back screener. Let's get into this off-ball look where I'm setting the back screen for, I'm trying to remember who the big was that got a deep paint touch. It ended up being a missed shot. And it's like, so we are already tapping into the Kelsey Plum as screener bag. As you mentioned, we haven't gotten a bunch of like the inverted pick and roll stuff yet. I would imagine that is going to come in short order with Alyssa Thomas handling, and that is going to be a terrifying experience. But just seeing some of the off-ball screening work, it's like, yeah, you get a nice reminder that KP does not mind doing the dirty work, and she's darn good at it. And so even just being able to force some of those small on big mismatches, if they start to flow into like Chicago action to get into something basic, like, okay, she's going to hit somebody, and Kalia Copper's now going to have a little bit more separation to come off of that handoff and attack downhill. And so I'm just excited to see how that part is going to expand. Like peeping the defense more so just because she just got back. She's coming off the bench for a reason, just seeing how well she's moving. Mixed in some unders, mixed in some natural navigation, kind of hit or miss, but like certainly like awful on that end. So I would imagine that chemistry is going to continue to build. And that should be okay, especially with a defender like Alyssa Thomas who can just take on late switches if necessary, or could just flat out jump you if they want to get more aggressive. So that should be a lot of fun for KP in terms of the defensive context. One thing I want up, Steve, because as I was writing that article about potential Kelsey Plum spots, I had the Valkyries as the front runner, but I did mention the Mercury's like, hey, this is a team that should make a phone call. This is what a potential thing would look like. And I mentioned in the piece, Alyssa Thomas could finally have someone to unlock her as a screener. Alyssa Thomas can finally have a ball handler that can like generally draw two on the ball. And so that sparked the thought for me heading into the pod, like, okay, how often has a pick and roll featuring Alyssa Thomas as the screener been blitzed or hedged since 2024? That's as far back as the data goes. Top player, it's 30 from Kahleah Copper. That's number one on the list. 30 across 2 years in 3 seasons is kind of nuts how low that total is. And as you look, it's 30 for Kahleah Copper, 25 for Monique Akoa-Makani, 20 with Marina Mabry as the ball handler, 18 with Sammy Whitcomb or DeWanna Bauer as the ball handler. Like, that is so incredibly low. And looking at what the Sun/the Mercury have generated out of those possessions, 0.8 for Ka, 0.5 for Monique Akoa-Makani. Like, nobody has done it. And so I'm excited for, as the pick and roll chemistry continues to grow, KP is someone that kind of demands that type of attention. And so, in theory, we should get a lot more of Alyssa Thomas short roll threat, something that we just have not gotten to see consistently because of some of the ball handlers that she's had paired with her in pick and roll. I just want to see how that builds out and how the Mercury are able to play out of that, because it's something that should just be there for Alyssa Thomas because of her skill set, but they just haven't had the talent to fully unlock that portion and force that kind of coverage.
No, I think it's a good point to raise. I think it's interesting because how much of the attention that KP can draw will make you more willing to make AT a screener as opposed to AT as a ball handler with a handoff or having someone screen for AT, and we put pressure on you that way because, okay, is AT going to force the pressure? I think it's an interesting list because I think with a lot of these players, there's talent, but there's also a choice from the defense where, go ahead. You get this space, you get this shot, make as many as you need. We'll adjust if we need to. And we just need you to pivot away from it. And once you pivot away from it, all right, cool, we're good. Reset. So I am intrigued to see what the balance is going to be.
That part is going to be fascinating. I guess I'll toss this question to you before we move to the other trade that happened. Did you like the return for the Los Angeles Sparks in moving Kelsey Plum?
I mean, yes. You're in a tough spot. The whole world has told you that, hey, this isn't going to work, and then it didn't work. And then on top of it not really working, Kelsey Plum was like, hey, I'd like to leave if that's okay. And it's like, well, that's not great.
We got to do something.
What leverage do we have if Kelsey Plum's going to leave, especially midway through the season? Like, there's a reason a scorer like this doesn't often get traded mid-season, because who's going to be like, if everyone did the Golden State thing, myself included, but I'm going to say I'm 20-9. I would love to have Kelsey Plum. I love where our team is right now. We're good. We're fine. So I think for the Sparks, you get Monique Akoa-Makani, very talented. I think fits into what the Sparks need. You lose scoring, but you add defense. And there's more of an unlocked scenario for Monique to kind of just play out there. And we've seen Ray Burrell grow. So I think it's a good spot for that. You get draft capital, which everyone loves. Despite, hey, again, as this league grows, I am keeping an eye on how teams value picks and how important they become or non-important. Because, yes, you added a pick. Yes, there's going to be talent. Yes, there's going to be depth. But as more teams get added, how strong does that first-round pick feel? Would I rather have a talent versus a pick? So I'm intrigued by that. We could table that for another day. But I didn't think that was a bad return for the Sparks. What did you think? Do the Sparks did as well as they could in this circumstance?
I think you get Monique Akoa-Makani, who, as you mentioned, should help the defense. And Lord knows the Sparks could use all the defensive help that they can get based on what this season has been so far. But you get her. She helps you now. And because of the contract situation, just resign. But you're going to be able to retain her for a little bit moving forward. So like that obviously helps. You get a first round pick here. I think the Mercury were willing to give up the first because of the W having like the 2-year lottery odds versus just what you have been this year. And because the Mercury were just in the finals this past season, in addition to adding 2, expansion teams to the book, they were probably looking at like, okay, this first round pick might be 7th or 8th. Not that we can't get a good player out of this, but it's more likely we're going to be 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th versus actually being able to get into the top 2, top 3 and get one of these blue chippers that may be coming out next year. But if you're the Sparks, like, okay, we're fine with just having 2 firsts. Like, we either just get 2 young pieces, or if we land 4th or something, can we package this to move up and get something? Get the target, a player that we really want to fully jumpstart this rebuild, et cetera. So, like, I think considering the context of Plum not wanting to resign, or the reporting being that she may not resign, getting a first is good work. Getting a cost-controlled, good point guard is good stuff. And then we'll see where the second lands. But I think they did pretty well, all things considered. So
now
I think
is this hashtag Delulu for Juju time?
For their sake, probably needs to be. Keep her keep her in the area. We need that. We need it bad. So, we'll see if they get that lottery luck and be able to nail that. But I thought it was pretty solid, all things considered. Now, to the other trade that we got announced, Steve. Mm-hmm. The Toronto Tempo acquiring Aneesah Morrow, the Sun receiving the rights to Maria Kleyondikova, and a 2028 second-round pick. Now, I was frustrated because we recorded a great episode of the podcast on Friday, and like 45 minutes later, the trade breaks. And I'm just like, well, darn. Now we got to talk about this next week. But beyond that, I was kind of intrigued by the move overall. So again, I'll swing the rock to you, Steve. What were some of your initial impressions of Aneesah Morrow going to Toronto?
Oh, I love the move for Toronto. I think Aneesah Morrow has had some really good growth aggression-wise offensively. I think a level of versatility has been hit as far as developing that 3-ball, being able to get to different spots offensively, having the ability to drive. Like, there's been some real spark plug moments from Aneesah Morrow. I think this is a good environment for her to grow. I think Toronto has wanted a young big. I think we've seen growth from their bigs over the course of the season. If you look at what Niara Sabally has been able to put together as a screener and a roller, if you look at what Izzy Harrison has done over the course of this season to kind of just add to what they do. You have Aneesah Morrow, who has a little bit more versatility. I think it's a fun kind of idea. And I think you can have someone who can drive, who can finish, who can occasionally space, who can crash the glass, play with energy. I think that fits what they're looking to build into. And being able to add that to your team, that it hasn't necessarily been the most successful win-wise for Toronto, but as far as building blocks, I think it's been a solid season. So to be able to get a player like that, a young player like that in the door in year one, I think is important. Where are you at with Morrow to the Tempo?
I largely like it for the Tempo. And I think as I was trying to quickly get this up, you look at the rebounding numbers for the Toronto Tempo this year. They are 11th in offensive rebound rate. They are 14th in defensive rebound rate, and they are 14th in overall rebound rate. Aneesah Morrow should help you on all of those fronts. Just on a very basic level, she should help them on the glass. And like some of the glass issue for Toronto has just been their entire front court has been injured at different points of the year. And so that obviously hurts. But Aneesah Morrow, just her nose for the glass is going to be helpful. The offensive versatility point is where I was excited to have this conversation with you when it comes to Aneesah. Because that's where I have just been a little bit in a headlock trying to decide how much I like it. Because I think in a literal sense, she can put the ball on the floor. She has shown the ability, especially on her hot nights. I can knock down threes. The drives are certainly there. The overall aggression is there. But it does feel like it takes a lot of usage for her to really get those parts of her games off. And I wonder in this Toronto context, like, what does it look like when she is scaled down? If she's not primary screener, if she's not getting a bunch of the driving reps, like how quickly will she slot into what they want to do? And how efficient is she going to be within that? Is like just like a baseline question that I have with her. Because I think the talent is there, but I think part of why we got to see it pop in Connecticut is because she had a little bit more free reign to explore and grow. I don't know if she gets the same, they are a better team, and this may be a better long-term fit for her because of the structure that Toronto is building. But in the short term, I do wonder like how quickly she kind of blends into what they want to do, if that makes sense. Am I off on that?
I mean, I don't think I would say you're off. I think I would point to there is a level of freedom within what Toronto does. Like there's structure, but there's also flow. And I think you also point to like the growth from Maria Conde over the course of this season, the versatility of Laura, and like kind of what they've built into it. If you are able to do things, I think you will have the ability to showcase that within what Toronto wants to do. And so I think them having a different piece and a different person who can kind of handle different scenarios, because, you know, Marina Mabry's not going to play 40. You know, Kiki Rice is just now coming back. There's going to be times and moments where plays can be made and freedom will be given. So I'm not as concerned with, well, Aneesah Morrow is only going to be asked to do this. I imagine she was brought there because of the amount of things that she could do and how that helps what Toronto's looking for from maybe their big room, their wing room to a degree. As far as, hey, can you do multiple things? That helps us out. Fantastic. Go to work. So I'm not as like, Connecticut had a bunch of room for her, so she did a lot of great things, and now she won't do that somewhere else. I think it's, oh, you can do all those things. Please do that over here, is where my brain goes.
Okay, I think that's fair. Now, I'll just quickly add Aneesah Morrow as a starter so far this year. 14 points, 9 boards to steal a game, 53% on twos, 32% from three, as you mentioned, Steve. Can space, especially when she has it rolling. And so I'm excited to see what it's going to look like for Aneesah. It was interesting because one of the things we didn't touch on Friday when it came to Aneesah, I think Annie Costabile of The Athletic said that Toronto Temple were shopping a future first-round pick to try to get the big in the room. They had been linked to the Sun and the Sparks. I would imagine on the Sparks point, it's like, hey, we love Cam Brink, and the Sparks saying, absolutely not. With the Sun, it was like, okay, is this Aneesah Morrow? Is this Aaliyah Edwards? Is this Olivia Nelson-Adota? Like, where are you going? And then Christina Williams also reported on her podcast that the Tempo had been the team most linked to Aneesah. So seeing that trade come to fruition, it's like, okay, that makes sense. And so them being able to acquire her with the previous reports of shopping a future first to get her for a second and a player, because I think Maria Kliniakova, what we saw her in Minnesota, we haven't seen her so far this year, but in Minnesota, like a big that can do a lot of things, can screen, can pass, can step out in space, etc. So if she comes, that could be a nice value add for Connecticut. She is going to have to come over for them to get the fruits of that, obviously. But I think it's good work overall for Toronto. And if she does continue to grow, continue to pop, that's going to look very good moving forward. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, Steve, because we've had some absolute bangers over the past few days in terms of games played. On Sunday, I think everyone was tuned in to see what Lynx Fever would look like, as we are fresh off of talking about how historic the Fever's offense has been this year. The Minnesota Lynx have just been the best team in basketball all year. So it's like, okay, cool. We're about to get Olivia Miles and Kayla McBride and Courtney Williams and Natasha Howard. We're going to get Caitlin Clark and Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston. A whole lot of star power, a whole lot of fun. That game was so fast to start, Steve. Because I was coming back from church. So I missed the first half live, got to watch the second half, and I later watched the first half of the game. And I'm just like, oh my goodness. Everyone is zooming right now.
I watched it live. I was intrigued by the matchup, but I was like, oh, if you like transition, if you like pick and roll, I have the game for you. In that first half, it wasn't just that they were just like pushing off misses. They were pushing off makes. There was a sequence where like Courtney Williams hits a three, immediate outlet to Caitlin Clark, immediate throw ahead for a layup. Minnesota's like, cool, immediate throw to Olivia Miles, immediate downhill drive layup. And I'm like, wait, what am I absorbing? I just have some fun. I was having a blast. So you are right. This game was a fast track and it changed into something else. So continue on. I think this was an important matchup for both teams.
No, I think, honestly, what I was going to ask you was just kind of broadly speaking, did you feel like you learned from this game? Or was this just one that you enjoyed? That, obviously, you could take something from everything, but as these are teams that could potentially meet in like the second round of playoffs or things, depending on how the standings play out, just what were some of your bigger picture takeaways from this game, aside from it being awesome?
Well, I mean, I think it was a fun game, and I think there were lessons to be learned for both the Fever and the Lynx. And obviously, the Lynx were able to win. That's 10 straight wins, first time since 2016. That's huge for them as they continue to raise at the top of the W. I think for the Fever, this was an interesting matchup in the sense that, okay, we are doing some tremendous things offensively. We've got Caitlin Clark rolling. We've got Kelsey Mitchell rolling. We've got Leah Boston rolling. can we do enough defensively to help that elevate our offense? And if you're Minnesota, okay, our defense has been pretty good most of the year. But if you ask Coach Cheryl Reeve, we need to do better defensively. So can our defense elevate to contain this team and that open things up for us offensively? I think as the second half went on, that's where like it wasn't as much of the fireworks in the first half because Kelsey Mitchell in that first quarter, 16 points. Oh my goodness. drive, deal with it. Olivia Miles, insane the entire first half as far as what do you want to do? How do you want to handle this? You got to give them their flowers. But I think that second half was really fascinating. The Lynx did have some half-court issues knock on the door once the Indiana Fever committed to trapping. And so, okay, we're blitzing, we're putting 2 on the ball, this is what we're doing. And I think that was important for Indiana because in that first half, their defense was not good. And it was not good in the worst way possible, in the sense that it was a wheel of issues. It was a wheel of issues. For Indiana, for them to grow into the contender they want to be, it's got to be a pick your poison type deal. There's got to be an understanding of what we're not doing well, but this is what we're not giving up. This is a non-negotiable. In that first half, they didn't have that. They got dinged in pick and roll in so many different ways, Nekias, that it was insane to me. I think it was 26 made field goals, 18 assists for the Lynx in the first half, and like pick and roll, they got hurt on drives, they got hurt on pops, they got hit on switches, drop didn't work. 2 on the ball got dinged. They were in rotation. So none of what they were doing in pick and roll worked. They had the transition defense that wasn't great, and they were getting beat off the bounce. That's a tough combination to deal with. But you saw in that second half, they did fight. I don't love trapping the Lynx because you've known me. I said the Lynx are a machine. And so when you are putting 2 on the ball against the Lynx, you are opening things up. It worked in this game. They hammered that trap button. They were early with their rotations. Their weak side was in. They flew back out and recovered. And so it was fascinating because early on, I think they got like Aneesah Howard in early post up, but they never really explored that option too much because if they put 2 on the ball, it was going to be Lexi Hull or Caitlin Clark or Kelsey Mitchell or insert guard rotating to the big that was rolling. The Lynx never really hammered that point home and made the Fever make a second decision, and they got kind of sped up in the half court as far as taking quicker shots instead of generating quicker shots. So you have the quick transition shots. Fever is still scoring. You have quicker shots you're taking. Fever is still scoring. That opens you up in a different way. So I think for the Lynx, this is an opportunity, a reminder that if you go back to that Mercury series, you played really well until you didn't. Was kind of the story. And so this is the thing you have to nail down. As good as you are on both ends of the floor and as great as you are in this league, you've got to be top tier at handling these half-court things, taking it off the table. And then defensively, when the offense slips a little bit, can you elevate and give yourself more wiggle room? So can you find the balance to where we're executing offensively, to where we're able to defend? So I think that was the lesson for them. For the Fever, great fight to get back. Good offensive performance. You need to elevate this if you want to compete against the top of this league. If you want to beat Minnesota, if you want to beat the Aces, you want to beat Golden State, whoever, pick a name out of the hat. Your defense is going to have to be at a certain level to elevate what you built offensively. So, yes, I learned a ton. I had a blast watching that game. Sorry. Clearly, because I yapped about it.
Listen, this is why I asked. I know you had thoughts, and that was really good stuff. I want to say just quickly on the stat front before I answer my own question. In the first half of that game for Olivia Miles in pick and roll, 16 on-ball picks received, 1.08 points per possession on trips featuring an Olivia Miles pick and roll, which is darn near a guaranteed basket. You get to the second half of that game, Steve, as you referenced the trapping, loading up, only 6 on-ball picks received. In light of the Fever saying we're blitzing all this, the Lynx went elsewhere and sped up, as you mentioned. 0.6 points per possession on those trips. Just a massive dip. Obviously, the volume went down, but that's part of the point, right? Like, hey, if you are running a ball screen, we're sending 2 at you, and you get to a point where it's like, all right, fine, let's see if we can generate offense in a different way. Something that you say all the time, Steve. It's like, hey, we just need to do this enough to where you go to something else. Doesn't have to become the boat for us. Can we just sprinkle this in enough and do well enough to where you do something else? The fact that there was only 6 in the second half is kind of instructive. And to your overall point, just looking at some of the late game stuff for the Lynx, it did feel like, one, we're playing a little quick. Two, it's just like any hint of an advantage. It's like, all right, fine, this is it. It's like you do just have room to work through stuff. Because like something that we talked about with the Lynx last year was like they had this electric offense that was beating people up as they were the best team in the league to start the year. And they were like, what, 11th or 12th in pace? Something like that. It was like, no, like they are a slower pace, but they run their actions with juice. And because they run their actions with juice, they can cycle through 2, 3, maybe 4 options if they need to. And now you do a good job of playing defense. And at the end of the clock, you got to deal with the Feast of Collier. That's something that you said last year. It's like, well, that's not a lot of fun. It was a little to see them go away from that. Where it's like, I think they got so used to just generating early advantages in that first half to where like once they took away the pick and roll button, there wasn't a consistent dose of, okay, well, we're going to do something else. It was like, we're going to do something else because we have to, but we're still playing like, all right, this is the shot. It's like, well, you probably got room. Like I was kind of chuckling watching the second half and seeing some of the stat graphics pop up for Fee, where it's like, wow, what a context for her to where she can just kind of chill and be on triple-double watch because Olivia Miles is great. And Courtney Williams, what a game. What a shot-making performance for Courtney Williams, by the way, in this one. But like Fee's in a context where, I can just kind of fill gaps right now. I think she is still very early on in her return. That was a second half where I wish it slowed down into, okay, let's get to just more Fee-centric stuff. So we just kind of settle things in.
My brother, I'm glad you said that because I was waiting with once the Fever started trapping, I was waiting for the Lynx to use Nekias Collier as a screener, let the Fever make a rotation, throw the ball to Fee in the post. And they did it occasionally, but I was like, you could have hammered this to make the Fever worry about something else. And so maybe that's something that like I'll keep an eye on if another team decides to trap Minnesota to this degree. I think it's interesting. Like the Fee return has been a positive for Minnesota overall. And I think the dangerous part is she's in different scenarios, different places. Not every screen has to involve Nekias Collier. And there's a built-in chemistry with Fee and Court, with Fee and Kayla McBride. The chemistry with Olivia Miles and Nekias Collier is growing in a way that I think you gotta start to respect, in the sense that Olivia Miles usually has an answer for every coverage you throw at her. And so we're starting to get to, okay, it's drop, I engage to Fee late roll. Doesn't matter if there's a help there, it's a smaller help, I can finish. But also, okay, once they've done that, now Nekias Collier pops. Like once they get their grooves together, it's gonna be fun. But I think your point about Minnesota kind of having to figure things out in the half court was astute. And like that's where I had a lot of fun to understand where these teams are at. Like this is a really fun W season. I told you, extremely competitive league, a lot of great teams. Like if you look at the top 16, they've all won 62% of their games. The New York Liberty are in 7th right now. Like these teams are going after it. So yeah, you gotta bring it.
Got to bring it indeed. Just quickly off of the Fee point, just looking at how many on-ball screens she has set so far this year. It was 17 in the debut against the Storm. It was 14 against the Tempo the first time. It was 23 against the Tempo in the second game. Season low 13 against the Fever. And so obviously just a little bit of wiggle room. I don't think that's going to be a long-term issue or anything like that, but it's just kind of funny that we had this conversation. I look it up. It's like, oh, I guess this was technically the season low for her. So more room on the bone. I guess the question I want to ask you more conceptually, since you have literally been a coach in a professional sports league, when it comes to stuff like that, is there ever an element of, we know we have this counter in the back pocket, we just don't want to put this on film? Or is it just important to get the reps and just kind of win the game ahead of you?
I mean, I think it's less about not wanting to completely show it. Like now, there are times where, let's say, we know we're going to face this team again shortly, or we're going to face them in the playoffs. We may not roll this particular thing out. You also may be trying to poke at something specifically in that game. You might have a belief as far as what you can do. So I wouldn't say that like, let's say we're just going to hold this in our back pocket. You may just not have landed on that, and even if it was a thought, you pivoted to something else, if that makes sense. So that's where it's like, okay, yeah, maybe we want to do this, but Olivia has it going, or Court has it going, or we want to get Kayla going. So we're not focusing in on this thing that may be the possession ender, because you're trying to maybe attack different things or attack different matchups, or hoping, okay, if we get this, we flow, we open things up. So it's less that we are just going to hold this back, and more so, maybe this will work. Like, I think a lot of coaching is attempts. I think that goes under the radar. It's attempts, and it's a balance of what are they doing to us and what do we do well. So I think a lot of times we think of an adjustment as to they are doing this, so we're going to do this. Sometimes as a coach, you may be, okay, what do we need to do to get back to what we've been doing well? Less than they're exactly doing this that's causing us harm. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, we're not necessarily going to focus on this thing that to us we're watching. It's like they're hurting you with this. It's like, okay, that's fine. Can we get back to how we played in the first half? Can we get back to being us? Like, it's how much are we trying to be us versus how much are we trying to beat them? I think in the regular season, you can tilt a little bit more to, okay, let's do X, Y, and Z to get back to what we do versus specifically they're doing this thing. We're going to punish them, ... every single night.
Okay, well, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for indulging me on the basketball question, good sir. Can I ask you a dream-related free throw?
Sure.
So I was just looking at the box score. And so I don't want to hammer too much on the dream because like they played the Las Vegas Aces last night. They lost that game pretty handily, but they were on a 5-game win streak beforehand. So this is not dream or bad overall point. I wanted to ask you about Rhyne Howard specifically, as she has not had a 20-point game in literally a month and has not shot 50% or better from the field and a little bit further than that. Do you have any concern about the Ryan offense experience, or is this just like weird stretch of games for
her? I think concern is probably too strong. I think with the way that they've played over the last stretch pre-All-Star break, I wouldn't say that I'm overly concerned. I think Rhyne Howard is a perfect example of, does the drive set up the shot? Does the shot set up the drive? Can I do either whenever I want? And with those kind of offensive talents, you just kind of understand, okay, you can do X, Y, and Z, so it's just going to be on you to choose your own adventure. And so I think my bigger concern for the dream is just, okay, Bree Jones is back. Which one of these ends are you going to stamp first? Because I think when you look at the playoff picture, like 4, 5, 6, Dallas, Indiana, Atlanta, you can even throw Liberty in there. You're going to be riding the wave until this World Cup break. Every loss is going to feel like the worst thing in the world. Every win's going to feel like we're so back. So what can you do to kind of find a way to make things a little bit easier for yourselves? Because you got a tough stretch coming up. You got to deal with the Phoenix Mercury, who just added Kelsey Plum. And then you got to deal with the Washington Mystics, who I'm not sure if you know. They have 4 bigs who are committed, and I mean committed, to beating you up for 40 consecutive minutes, whoever's out there. So I'm not as concerned with Rhyne Howard as far as like, I think that this is what it's going to be. Because I think in a flash of a pan, you can put on League Pass, you can watch a dream game, and Rhyne Howard has 8 points in the first 3 minutes. It's like, yep. That's what she does. So no, it's just more, I think, for the dream, being consistent on both ends of the floor. We've seen high points of the offense. We've seen high points of the defense. We've seen them grind out and come back and win games that maybe they shouldn't have. Like that's that sky wing stretch where it's like, you know what, we're out of it until we're not.
So bad.
Give me the win. So it's like, how does that elevate them overall?
Okay, I figured I would ask because, like, I have, as we've had many conversations about the dream as a whole, but as Rhyne Howard is just like, the high end of this is so freaking good. The shot making she can tap into, the playmaking tied to it, especially when she draws extra attention. Defensively, she can blow stuff up and guard a little bit of everyone. But then there's like the middle ground and the low end where it's like, okay, what is this? Because I think you are better than this. And then tied to that, the dream need you to be better than this. So everything else kind of makes sense. And I think less about the Aces game, because I thought she was like pretty solid in the Aces game. But just kind of looking at the stretch overall, it's just like, what is the pathway to getting the best version of Ryan consistently? Because I feel like as the season has gone on, it's almost solely been tied to, is she making threes? And like that is a big part of the package for her. But I don't want that to be kind of the boat that dictates if she's having an efficient night or not. or if she's putting maximum pressure on defenses or not. And I think as the season has gone on, it has felt more like, especially as Allisha Gray has become more assertive within this offense, as Angel Reese, who is playing incredibly well. As she's had a really good season, obviously all-star, but like 20-10 in 4 of her last 5 games? Like she's just been nuts. It has felt more like, okay, where is Ryan within this? Because in the best case scenario for the Dream, especially as Bree Jones is now working her way back, though she's still coming off the bench, in the best case scenario, it is Allisha Gray hits you with the drives and the shots. Rhyne Howard hits you a little bit everywhere. Angel Reese is going to beat you up in the paint with the post-ups, the drives, the offensive rebounds, etc. Bree Jones, she's going to post you up and bully you, and you just get this wave of this all-star quartet. It's like, oh, what do we do? And that's before even mentioning, hey, Jordan Canada just having a career year, etc. As of late, it's just kind of felt like, it's odd. Not even necessarily bad. It's just odd. And so, like, I'm trying to work through my thoughts on it. I want to get your thoughts on where you were with the Ryan/Dream experience. So once again, thank you for indulging me, good sir.
No problem. Do we have any news we want to break down before we get out of here?
Yes. Last thing came through the pipeline as we were mid-break. The Cleveland WNBA team. We have a name, Steve. We've got branding. Say hello to the Cleveland Sirens, as the official Twitter account posted, I think, a minute 42 hype video. And I like it. I like the colors. I like the branding. I like the name. I think it flows. How do you feel about the Sirens as the name?
Hear the call. Hear the call in the Nekias. Nostalgia. I would love the Cleveland Rockers, but I like Cleveland Sirens. I like them getting this done. Mm-hmm. I do have a free throw for you, right?
Okay.
So we're supposed to hear the call. We're supposed to enter the depths. This is from the fierce waves of Lake Erie. Okay. So obviously it can't be Silence on the Swamp, but are you lowering the volume near the lake?
That is well done. I am blocking you. Get off my Twitter. You know what? In an ideal world, Steve, in an ideal world, that would just be the ending of the podcast. But I also had a free throw for you. I want to be respectfully messy to close things out. So as we've gotten the Cleveland branding now, did the Houston team get their name officially? Are they going to be Houston Basketball Club? Did we get an answer on that?
To infinity and beyond.
All right. Thank you for listening to and or watching this episode of The Dunker Spot. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're on Apple, Spotify, RIP Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. Subscribe to the Yahoo Sports main channel. That's where our W content lives. Subscribe to the Yahoo NBA YouTube channel. That's where our NBA content lives. You can follow me on socials at Nekias NBA. You can follow Steve on socials at Steve Jones 20. And with that, we will catch y'all later in the week.